Today I'm taking you to Bukchon Hanok village, everyone's favorite photo spot in Seoul. Most tourists come here right after touring Gyeongbokgung Palace, spend 20 minutes following the crowd, take a few photos, and leave without really seeing the place. Today we're not doing that. I'm going to walk you through Seoul City's official 8 best photo spots, the hidden corners most tourists miss, and I'll also share my personal Naver Map Bookmark Collection of 67 restaurants, cafes, and places to visit in this neighborhood. So you can drop by from the list anytime while following my suggested tour route. This tour should take a good 2 to 3 hours without resting time. But before we start, 2 things. First, there's a tourist curfew here. Real people actually live in these hanoks, and to respect their evenings, tourists are only allowed to visit between 10 AM and 5 PM. Please be mindful of the noise and don't block private driveways. Second, Seoul City has officially selected the 8 scenic views of Bukchon, 8 specific photo spots that offer the most stunning views in this village. These are the spots you don't want to miss. And here's the thing, they don't appear on any map. You won't find them by just searching Bukchon on Google. So follow this video carefully, and I'll give you exact search terms for each one. Stop 1. Unhyeongung Palace. We're starting our tour at Unhyeongung, just a short walk from Anguk Station exit 4. Now the name might confuse you. It ends with gung, which means palace, just like Gyeongbokgung Palace or Changdeokgung Palace. But here's an important distinction. Unhyeongung was never officially designated as one of the 5 grand palaces of Seoul. It was originally a private mansion of the royal family in the 19th century and later got elevated to palace status in name. This is a great place to begin your tour because it gives you the experience of walking through a larger hanok before you enter the narrow alleys of the village. Take your time here. Then we head north. Stop 2. Onion, Anguk. Walking up the main street, you'll pass Onion, Anguk, one of Seoul's most famous bakery cafes. The building itself is stunning, a beautifully renovated old structure that fits perfectly into the neighborhood. I've never actually been inside because there's always a line. If you've tried it, let me know in the comments how the coffee and pastries were. If you're a worried visitor like me, at least the building makes for a great photo even from the street. Stop 3. Bukchon Cultural Center. Next up is the Bukchon Cultural Center, a public hanok that's free to enter. This is the perfect place to take a break before diving into the rest of the village. They also hold regular traditional cultural activities here, things like tea ceremonies and traditional craft workshops. So check their schedule before you visit. But even if there's nothing on, the space itself is peaceful and beautiful. Today I tried this small activity and I'm so bad at it, and I didn't even land a single dart. See if you can do better than me. Stop 4. Scenic View 1, Bukchon Ilgyong. Alright, first scenic view. Here's how to find it. Open Naver Map and search Ijongun Jipto. I'll put the Korean text and detailed direction in the description so you can copy and paste it directly. Once you're there, stand in front of the marker and look toward Changdeokgung Palace. What you'll see is a perfectly framed view, the palace and its stone wall as the backdrop, with the hanok rooflines in the foreground. It's one of the most picture-perfect compositions in the entire village. If you take a few more steps back, you can also capture the alley itself in the frame, which gives you that iconic Seoul in one-shot feeling. Both angles are worth trying. Stop 5. Hoehwanamu Cafe. If you want to enjoy the palace view with a coffee in hand, there's a cafe right near here, Hoehwanamu Cafe. Head up to the 3rd floor for an elevated view over Changdeokgung's walls. One warning, the best window seats fill up fast, so you might need some luck. But if you get the spot, it's totally worth it. I asked the owner and she said it's usually okay before lunchtime but almost impossible to take one of the best seats in the afternoon. Stop 6. Scenic View 2, Bukchon Ilgyong. Now we walk further north to find the second scenic view. For this one, search Myeongdoines on Naver Map and head to that location. What makes this view unique is this composition. A traditional Hanok alley split right down the middle by a single Hanok building, but with a big showroom glass window on it that you wouldn't expect to see here. That clash between the old alley, the tiled rooftops on both sides, and that sleek modern glass front is exactly why this is the best spot in Bukchon to capture traditional and modern Seoul in one single frame. And here's a tip. This is the only one of the 8 views that's a bit out of the way from the others, which means fewer crowds. If you want a quiet moment in Bukchon, this is your best bet. Stop 7. Gohuidong Art Museum. Right near the second scenic view is a quiet little gem, the Gohuidong Art Museum. Gohuidong was one of Korea's earliest Western-style painters, trained in Japan in the early 20th century. His former home has been preserved as a small gallery with paintings on the walls and a serene, unhurried atmosphere. If you're feeling overwhelmed by the crowds in Bukchon, duck in here. You'll likely have the place almost to yourself. Stop 8. Scenic View 3, Bukchon Samgyeong. Heading west now for the third scenic view. Search for this address. This one doesn't need a specific landmark to find. View 3 opens up naturally as you ascend. It's the open streetscape where modern low-rise buildings and traditional Hanok rooftops exist side by side. There's something iconic about this view, ancient and contemporary at the same time. Stop 9. Bukchon Hanok Hall. Just nearby, there's also the Bukchon Hanok Hall, another open, publicly accessible Hanok with a small gallery inside. Walk through the gallery, then step a little further inside onto the porch. You'll get another angle on the Hanok meets Modern Seoul view, this time from a slightly elevated position. It's great for photos and completely free. Stop 10. Gahoe-dong Catholic Church. Before we climb to views 4 through 8, there's a stop I don't want you to skip. It's not on most tourist itineraries, but it really should be. Gahoe-dong Catholic Church. What you'll notice first is how beautiful the building is. A bright white Catholic church standing right next to traditional Hanok walls. The architectural contrast is stunning and honestly, one of the most photogenic spots in the entire Bukchon area. But the history is what makes this place extraordinary. This is the site where the first Catholic Mass in Korea was held. And more than that, this church enshrines the remains of Saint Andrew Kim Dae-gun, the first Korean-born Catholic priest, who was murdered in 1846 and later canonized as a saint of the Catholic Church. If you know anything about the dark history of Korean Catholic, the mass persecutions, the underground believers, the murders, standing in this church hits differently. Even if you're not religious, this is a piece of Korean history that deserves a moment of your time and beautiful architecture. Before heading to our next scenic view, I dropped by at a local fragrance store called Granhand. I wasn't planning to visit, but the building was beautiful, so I stepped inside. They had a variety of fragrance products at reasonable prices, and the quality was beyond my expectations. I ended up buying a scent pouch for my car. Stop 11, Scenic View 4, Bukchon Sagyong. For the fourth scenic view, search this address on Naver Map and head up the hill. Now we're climbing. As you ascend, the view opens up right next to you, a panoramic spread of Hanok rooftops stretching out like a living map of traditional Seoul. The gray Hanok tiles, the curved eaves, the rhythmic repetition of the rooflines. It's the kind of view that makes you stop mid-step and just stare. This is one of the most photographed views in all of Bukchon, and once you see it in person, You will understand why. Stop 12, Scenic View 5, Bukchon Hanok. Views 5, 6, and 7 are the heart of Bukchon. This is where the most iconic photos come from, and yes, this is also where the crowds are thickest. Come early if you can. For View 5, search Cheongchundae on Naver Map. You'll find a beautiful Hanok guest house with an exotic patterned wall. The famous view is directly across the street from the entrance. Look up the alley. A neat, beautifully maintained Hanok lane stretching upward, with perfectly aligned tiled rooftops on both sides. This is the shot, the one you've seen on every Seoul travel blog and Instagram feed. It does live up to the hype. Stop 13, Scenic View 7, Bukchon Hanok. Here's where the route gets a little interesting. And this is why you need to follow this video carefully. We're visiting View 7 before View 6. About halfway up the uphill alley from View 5, look for a small alley branching off to the left. You'll come across a tiny local grocery store, selling traditional Korean condiments, fermented sauces, sweet syrups, and snacks. It's the kind of place that feels removed from the tourist trail, peak locals only energy. I had a chance to have a small chat with the business owner here, and she was very proud to share that her products are 100% sourced from local Korean farmers. I bought a 10-year fermented soy sauce for my in-laws today. This place is a gem for buying unique condiment souvenirs. The owner told me she has recently launched a new kimchi making class for small groups. She also has plans for classes on other fermented products like gochujang and doenjang. Since I'm a tour guide, if you go on a Bukchon tour with me and let me know in advance that you're interested, I'll check the class booking for you. After you browse, the path you walk out on is Bukchon View 7, a narrow, winding lane that curves between the old walls. It's atmospheric, intimate, and honestly perfect for portrait photography. These narrow stone walls on either side creates a natural frame around whoever's walking through. At the end of this uphill alley, look back down the hill. You'll see the MMCA tower between the Hanoks. This is the type of view you don't want to miss, especially on a beautiful day like today. Stop 14, Scenic View 6, Bukchon Hanok. When you come out of View 7, you've reached the top of the hill, the same alley you started at View 5. Now turn around and look downhill. This is View 6, and it's a totally different experience from View 5 even though it's the same street. Looking up, you saw a corridor of Hanok rooftops. Looking down, the Hanoks frame a view that opens out to the modern Seoul skyline in the distance. Modern towers and apartment buildings rising beyond the ancient gray tiles. It's one of my favorite contrasts in the city. Traditional and modern Korea, sharing the same sideline. Stop 15, Scenic View 8, Bukchon Hanok. For the final scenic view, search 우물길 정원 on Naver Map. Walk to the railing in front of it and look toward the mountain. From here, you'll see Inwangsan Mountain cradling Gyeongbokgung Palace from the north and the National Folk Museum building visible within the palace grounds. It's a wide open, breathtaking panorama, the kind of view that ties everything together. After walking through the intimate alleys of Bukchon, this expansive cityscape feels like a reward. Stop 16, National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art Seoul. From View 8, follow the road south and you'll arrive at MMCA Seoul, one of Korea's premier contemporary art museums, housed in a beautifully renovated building that was once the home of Korean Security Service headquarters. Admission is around 4,000 Korean won for the permanent collection. Hours are typically 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. with late night openings on Fridays and Saturdays until 9 p.m. They regularly host major contemporary exhibitions. Check their website before you visit because it's one of Seoul's most underrated cultural stops. Stop 17, the Sool Gallery, traditional Korean liquor gallery. Before you head back to the subway, make one last stop at the Sool Gallery, a government-run gallery dedicated to traditional Korean liquors. Admission is free. Inside, you can browse a curated collection of hundreds of traditional makgeolli, soju, and fruit wines from all across Korea, with tasting options available for purchase. If you're into Korean food culture, this is genuinely fascinating. Many of these are small batch regional specialties you simply cannot find in regular convenience stores. A perfect way to end a cultural tour. For a late lunch today, I decided to check off a spot from my Naver Map bookmarks, Shilla Jemyeon Anguk. I ordered the kalguksu, which is one of my favorite Korean dishes. It's a comforting noodle soup, served in a rich seafood broth. And I have to say, their food was really nice. If you're craving a truly authentic and heartwarming Korean meal while exploring Bukchon Hanok village, you should consider this place. After that satisfying lunch, I stepped right next door to another highly anticipated spot on my list, Dotori Garden Anguk. Dotori actually means acorn in Korean, and stepping inside feels like entering a cozy little forest. To match that nature-inspired vibe, their desserts are famously shaped just like little acorns. I went with an iced Americano and their signature chocolate acorn pastry. It's a combination of smooth cream cheese and rich melted chocolate in it. It was the perfect sweet note to wrap up our Bukchon Hanok village tour today. And that wraps up Bukchon Hanok village, all 8 scenic views and the hidden stops in between that most tourists miss. If this was helpful, please give it a like. It genuinely helps this channel grow. And if you want my full Naver Map collection with all 67 restaurants, cafes, and spots in this neighborhood, I'll drop the link in the description. Drop a comment below and let me know which view was your favorite. Or if you've been to Unhyeongung, because I'm still waiting to hear if it's worth the lineup. Subscribe for more deep dive Korea contents, and I'll see you in the next video.